Good afternoon. It's Thursday, January 29th, 2026, and I'm Eric A. Cinotti, and this is the National Report. Here's what's happening across the United States. But we'll begin this afternoon with the White House. The White House says talks are continuing with leaders in Congress to avoid a partial or full potential government shutdown. I know. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. We're hearing this all the time. It seems to be a regular thing. Officials say the president wants the government to stay open. He wants full function, full access, equal open access of government all the way through. They say that teams actually from both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are meeting daily. They've met today and they'll continue to meet through the evening to ensure that government will stay open and that at least essential services are available. Sometimes it takes a little bit more than time. They are having meetings all day. I did sources on the ground did tell me today there were more than one meeting, and there are still several meetings. I even believe there's a dinner meeting about to go down shortly. So they are definitely working towards this. I don't think either party would like to have a shutdown at this point. Key issue here is funding. Funding issues on several areas, of which we're going to cover a little bit today. White House officials say that though they have told agencies to be prepared for the worst outcome. And let me not alarm anybody. The worst outcome for them is shutting down of government, which would just mean moving of specific agencies, changing the way they operate, not so much the viewers and listeners at home. So this is not time to panic, and you definitely did not hear it from us to say panic. It's time for somebody to take responsibility. But I think we have a little bit of personal responsibility here. Too. Government, is this is not in my script. I'm throwing this in here actually. Today I decided to do it. Government is a safety net, folks. Government is not your safety structure. It is not the foundation of your home that you live in, that you purchased, you own, and that is your safety. Government is a safety net for the worst times and times of need. They are there to rescue you in a safety net, but they are not there to support you for life. That being said, they are taking responsibility, but we should have a little bit of personal responsibility. Government is saying, and the White House is saying that essential services will remain top priority. Just for those that are not aware, essential services are the services that government deliver to you on a daily basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year, that just automatically happens, such as national security, air travel safety, disaster response, veteran services, and very much needed payments to Americans who rely on those every day, such as disabled people that actually are getting these payments and this is what they need. They're not going to turn them off. Officials stress, though, even during this, there are political debates, but the mission continues. The mission continues. They want to remind the public that at the end of the day, they do remember that we have U.S. service members that are currently deployed right now around the world in some of the most hostile locations. And because of that, they're deployed on land, at sea, and in the air. So they say those men and women continue their missions without pause. So that to you and me says at least we know our national security and our safety measures are going to be fully functional. Plus, I believe we owe it to the men and women who are putting their life on the line 24 hours a day to ensure that they are taken care of while they're far from home and we're laying in bed. So the White House also says funding must be always kept in mind for all types of realities. Everything must be in play and available. And there are money coffers that are set aside for emergency things. They say deployed service members and their families should never feel forgotten during these times, and that they are not in any way on either side a problem when it comes to the debate in Washington. The White House says updates will be shared as soon as any agreements are finalized, and as always, the National Report will keep you updated with that. So, turning to our top story today, the top national story. As federal funding deadline gets closer, lawmakers on Capitol Hill are working through final decisions. Doesn't mean that they're all done. Box sign and deal. We know that. Okay, let's keep it real on this show. But they are working towards it, and it does not benefit any Republican nor Democrat to shut down the government. Some pundits might tell you otherwise, but it doesn't benefit either side to shut down because they have constituents that vote them in, and they also have families and friends that require on these same very services you and I are getting. But there are several parts of the federal budget that already actually have been approved. We're not going to get into them, the specifics right now, because there is some movement, and I don't think it's appropriate that I put that out. Because some others do remain to be unresolved at this point. Let's just use that word unresolved. Lawmakers say this is common, though, and it truly is. As an inside guy like myself, I know this is very common. The negotiations go back and forth, deadline threats, all these things, but they are actively negotiations and they are talking. I know there's a dinner meeting tonight, probably in a few minutes from now. So some agreements might come earlier than you think. Um, and others may take a little bit longer, but realistically, the ones that take a little bit longer might not be of the biggest urgency to many people. But the debates are on the floor, they are focused, and they are on structure about timing and how long these funding agreements may last. Maybe they might do a short term agreement, as some people might say, kick the can down the road. They might turn around and say, well, let's move it over for another 30 days, especially I want to say maybe what a lot of this Homeland Security and ICE stuff going on, that is definitely a conversation. So if they're not able to reach a concrete decision, and that is a question, this would be a perfect time, folks, to kick the can down the road for another 30, 60, 90 days while they work that out. So this way, the rest of the country doesn't suffer with a shutdown. But and I understand. Some of my people have told me that a very large amount of lawmakers are actually supporting a short-term funding uh, period. So that's a very positive thing. So let's keep a good thought on that. While others are waiting for the long term, it's uncertain, but I suspect that we're going to be in the right direction. For many Americans, though, this really matters in very simplistic, real ways. Will government offices stay open? This is the question. And I get that. I understand. There's nothing more frightening for many people to wake up in the morning and wonder if your government is still there in the morning. We are not China. We are not North Korea. We are not Russia. We're not gonna, we're not gonna fall. Government, even if offices are closed for a shutdown, essential services are there. Um, but there is concerns. Will federal workers be paid on time? Will benefits continue without interruption? These are real concerns that Americans feel, and I get that. And here at the National Report, we're going to try to give you as much information as we can. Will military families continue to receive steady support while their loved ones are deployed? These are important things. Lawmakers say that they truly understand these concerns, and I can tell you from years of experience working with these people, they do. They do, and not only do they care personally, some majority of them, but they do. Let's be real; they want to be reelected, and their constituency, you, the voters, when you suffer, they suffer. Keep that in mind. So they discuss, being focused to avoid any disruption to everyday lives, and I don't think they want disruption just as much as you do. They want to give families, workers, and businesses full clarity. They also note that as much of these things happen, it's actually happening quietly. So, as you might hear some pundits on some stations, never on the national report, but you might hear some put a sense of urgency. You're hearing it here. There's no sense of urgency. They're going through line by line on these budgets. They're looking at number by number, and this is done at a public view. This is not done generally. At the end, you may see, if you watch C-SPAN or if you watch some news clips, you may see the conversation go back and forth, but that is in a general Senate or things like that. But some of these really small committee meetings or these dinner meetings that are happening, even presidents, they used to have what they called the kitchen cabinet, which is the joke was the president's real advisors that they would meet in the kitchen of the White House, and they are not the ones we didn't know about. A lot of things happen like that in a positive way. So just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it's not going on. But what really matters to you at home? Government funding decisions do sound very far. They are. They are until it affects you at home because to the rest of us, they are happening in Washington. They involve long meetings, very large documents in very, very descript legal terminology and verbiage that most people did not understand. And it's like a new language. So, I mean, you see that and you're like, I don't get any of this. but it really does reach your home quickly, and they know that. When funding is uncertain, stress elevates for everybody. It increases. Federal workers worry if they are going to get their paychecks. Military families worry about their benefits. And veterans worry, are they going to continue to have access to quality health care, which is a whole other conversation for another day when I would use the word quality. Are they getting access to health care? Small businesses that work with government, contract companies, smaller businesses, they rely on their check. So then that could trickle down to you or the people that work at those businesses, because if that small business is receiving a contract and there's a delay in payment, then of course that trickles down to the employee with their payroll. And then you spend the money in the community, and we could just keep going on and on, but we won't. Travelers are worrying about airport staffing and safety checks. Should not worry about this. Again, as we said, national security is at the forefront of everything. Um, Here's another one. Families are waiting on loans, permits, or how about much needed disaster assistance? We know this is going on. We talked about it on yesterday's show. And we know that there are national crises, some from years ago, that people are still waiting on stuff. These cause stressful moments. Absolutely. But the stress is not about politics. It's about daily life, about being a human, and it's about having stress. People want systems to work. You want your government to work. We all want the government to work. We want to wake up and know that the schools are going to be open for our children. We want that. We want to know that the planes are going to be in the sky flying safe. We want to know that help is available should something go wrong. Well, I'm here to tell you on the national report that yes, the planes will still be flying. Yes, if you dial 911, you will receive help. And yes, um, our nation will still be secured. But people also want to know, and this is something we get a lot of messages about. People want to know about service members that are deployed overseas. Is there going to be any interruption in their services and families being taken care of? This is not going to be of an issue. This is definitely something that is up on the highest priority. And I would hate to be the politician, Republican or Democrat, that interfered with deployed family members receiving services, I would say. Leaders say, though, these talks to them are about stability, stability in government, stability in American society. It's about continuing, about unity and moving forward. And that's what our nation needs to push forward. And I think that's what everybody wants. It's not about the midterm elections right now. It's about maintaining a strong front for real and continuing government. It's about protecting families from unnecessary disruption. And it's about keeping matters stable. And especially during so many uncertain times with a lot of things going on, the last thing they want to do is disruption. With that said, let's jump to the economy. So, across the country, many Americans continue to feel pressure from the everyday cost. We're all there, myself included, everybody. Um, I mean, we could go down to detailed things that used to cost something, and it's not, from the large bill to the small bill. Um, And which ones are worse? Truthfully, the large bill or the small bill? It doesn't really matter if you're counting pennies. It doesn't matter if it's a large or small bill. If you're counting a penny to get there, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. Gas prices are moving higher in some regions. It is. Experts are saying that refining maintenance and seasonal changes are part of that reason. This might be true. This could be true. This is fair. And global supply chain place factors. Now, without getting into additional politics, because we do not spin here, we do not pick a party side. We give you straight down the facts. There are a lot of issues going on around the world, and supply chain, meaning the movement of crude oil and stuff, that is a supply chain issue. And that might play a role in prices having to purchase crude oil from different locations and different vendors and countries than we normally might have at a higher rate because of the inability to transport it. But fear not, there's plenty of oil going around. There's going to be gas. You're going to have heat. We're gonna live. Um, it's the small things though that matter. People are commuting to and from school, doctor visits, family routines, and groceries remain elevated. Let's let's keep it real here. Groceries are elevated. Gas is elevated. People live on a budget. The majority of people in this nation do not have enough money in their savings account to fix their car if their car were to break down and it was more than, five, 600 to $1,000. People budget their money, and this is pretty normal. It's and at least we have some money to budget in this country. You could be waiting online for a bread ticket in another country, but yes, the prices are going up. And when you cannot guarantee the price of milk and eggs, and the milk price and the eggs price and the bread prices shoots up and down, produce here, all over, it leaves for a little bit of instability, a little bit of concern, and says, "Well, I'm not exactly sure," especially if you are that really, really penny-minded person that actually carries the one and that decimal point. They know exactly what they are spending every month, and when prices fluctuate so much, it is kind of hard to do that. But they are truly working to stabilize this. Um, Costs a lot are tied to labor and the transportation. Like I said, transportation, labor, fuel, um, and you know what? Here it is. The reality is everybody is seeing it at the checkout line on Friday when it's time when you get your check and it's time to get the family groceries. You're seeing it. It's there. You're not the only one. You're not alone. We here at the National Report are with you, and we'll keep you informed as things move. Retailers, though, I can tell you this: retailers, statistics, and retailers, and we actually spoke with a few here at the National Report, said that they are noticing that shoppers are adjusting to this. They are fluctuating, they are being resilient, and they are like a chameleon trying to adapt to the situation. They're buying more store brands. So you used to buy a certain brand of eggs because you like that brand, right? Maybe now you might have to buy the store brand for a little bit because it's a dollar cheaper. People are actually coupon clipping again. Maybe if it's not actually clipping, looking for coupons, they're looking for sales. Nothing wrong with that. Really should be doing that all the time. But they're saying that that's what's happening. People are also planning meals in advance. Not a bad idea either. And of course, they're skipping the extras. Let's be real. That extra DoorDash order, do you really need it? So that's what they're saying. Economists are saying, no, we are showing resilience and we are adapting. So not to panic. Families just remain cautious and careful, be thoughtful, and bottom line, Americans are the best at being resilient, and we are the best at getting the best bang for our buck and stretching that dollar as far as it can go. So now on to the national conditions. Affordable housing remains to be a challenge in many parts of the country. I need not tell you this. Housing is a fundamental thing that we all should have. We know that is not happening the way it should. That could be left for another show to address. But yes, housing remains to be an affordable issue. Prices are very high. Interest rates are insane, making the payments so hard, especially for new home purchase buyers that are looking to get into their first home. It's rough. How about young families? Young families trying to start that family, get to move forward ahead. They can't do it. First time buyers again. People try. How about people just trying to move closer to their job or to their loved ones? Many people during, especially COVID too, and now even still happening. Many people had to move into more urban areas for different positions and would really like to move closer to their family, or maybe they have to live further away from their employment because housing is cheaper, and they want to work in the area where the pay is higher. Ultimately, they would like to move there, but the housing remains to be high. Um, then let's bring rent into this. People, renters, they're feeling the pressure too. Don't think that because they're a renter that they don't know. Rents are elevating because when you rent something, somebody owns that property, and that somebody that owns that property is paying that taxes, and they're paying that interest rate on that home on that loan. So it's just an all around cycle. It's making it harder for everyday Americans to save, making it very hard to plan, making it hard to move out of locations, to move ahead, to move further in life. But officials say that the housing supply remains tight. It's tight. New construction takes a lot of time. It's expensive. It takes time. You need investors to do that. Of course, then you have government bureaucracy. You have zoning process, permits. All that takes time. Maybe you can get the right elected official in your locality, and maybe they can help speed up those zoning and permits. But I'm good for that. I'm good for cutting the red tape and making that happen so people can have homes. And that's where local government comes into play. Folks, the most important election, the most important people you probably will ever elect in your life is your local elected people, your mayor, your council, and your school board, and whatever you might call it in your jurisdiction. They affect your tax rate, they affect the permits and all that stuff. Yes, we all see presidents and senators and congress people, et cetera. Yeah, very important positions. But your local people by far affect your paycheck and they by far affect your daily quality of life. So slowly but unevenly, I do believe we are going to bring ourselves back to where we need to be. And, moving on to health and everyday life. Healthcare continues to be a major concern across our nation. It really is. Families, even with insurance, very well insured people are reporting extremely high expenses, higher premiums, higher deductibles, higher copays. For those that don't know, deductible is what you have to pay out of pocket every year before the insurance company takes over 100% of payment. Your premium is your monthly payment, and your copay is what you pay each time you show up to a doctor's visit or something like that. Here at the National Report, we try to break that down so you don't feel like you don't know. And sometimes the question not asked is the real dumb question, but we won't make you answer it here. Doctors are saying patients are actually delaying with care. Very sad, very sad. They're actually skipping follow-up visits. They're spreading their appointments out to save money. Um, and here's another fact that I debated about putting in. I know of seniors in my life that are actually skipping prescriptions every other day or cutting the prescription pill in half because they can't afford that final payment at the end of the month to buy a prescription. Something has to be looked at. I'm going to make another statement here too. We have which really our opioid epidemic has come down drastically, but still we have an opioid epidemic. And the price of Narcan, which is what they use to reverse an opiate overdose, is extremely expensive. I don't have the exact number in front of me. I would, but the fact is, then you have a cancer patient, and this opiate person might overdose 3 or 4 times, and the government is providing them the Narcan, and then your person that is cancer is paying ridiculous prices. It saddens me. Um, Health officials are saying no, they are doing everything to ensure that they can make healthcare affordable and critical. Um, every preventative problem should be addressed. You should look. Preventative care does actually save you money in the long run. They say that the costs pressure people to make decisions that they might not orderly make. Just remember, if you fix something and you check on things sooner, then you will run the risk less later of having to fix something much larger. So basically, the government leaders, health people are just saying, stick with it, pay attention to your health. It's the only thing you have. It's so important. Let's move on to the world and national security. US officials are continuing to work with allies around the globe, and they are watching events closely in Europe, and they are monitoring the ever changing developments and, and temperature in the Middle East, which is something that's been for years. I don't need to tell you that. And they are tracking the broader security risks that are associated with all of that. But they're saying the focus still remains on stability. And yes, America is a mighty force and a force to reckon. We have stability. Fear not. Your national security apparatus is fully in play, and we are safe. Their main mission is to prevent wider conflict and to prevent any other conflicts we don't need to be involved in while preventing injuries and providing the best possible protection for civilians. Again, we're going to remind you that there are U.S. service members deployed worldwide. They are standing watch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you're laying in the pillow at night, curled up, somebody else is standing in the cold or in the heat somewhere at the ready to carry out a mission so that you're safe. And our leaders need to ensure that we support them while they're deployed and make this not political, make this national. It's our responsibility, it's their responsibility. It's just the way it should be. We encourage Americans to keep these people in mind because without them, we wouldn't be the United States. And we hope for their safety each and every day. Now, into technology and the industry. I'm not into technology, so we're going to go briefly through that. As you, anybody that follows me knows that I'm not a big fan of having to replace my phone all the time. Um, Technology is ever changing. We were just talking, I heard a word called bricked. I just found out what that means. I've been bricked a few times on some stuff, didn't know what it was. Thank you, Rose, my assistant producer. So, technology is changing, moving so quickly. iPhones, vehicles, um, even the process how goods are made, sold, and delivered. Industry leaders are protecting supply chains at the best that they can. AI is really taking advancements here. Maybe a good thing, maybe not. But we'll follow up on that. But they are talking computer chips is a big hot issue right now. Energy materials, manufacturing tools, and even transportation systems. Officials say that these decisions and these things actually affect our jobs. They affect the long-term prices and they affect the strength of our nation. So they must be careful in planning on how they're going to deal with technological issues as they change to ensure that we are ever ready and ever prepared. Now, what are you going to watch today? Pay attention to for tomorrow. You're going to pay attention to updates in Washington on anything with the funding talks. Now, I told you that there are some dinner meetings tonight, so maybe tomorrow you will hear some changes. Pay attention tonight. If not, come back to the national report. We'll keep you up to date. Announcements that could affect government services, whether they be shut down, continued, or guaranteed to move along. Let's see. Fuel costs, energy costs. Always pay attention to that, folks, because that's just something we should always pay attention to. And developments overseas that can always affect our U.S. national security. Another big one. We talked yesterday about Americans' confidence in our economy. So continue to pay attention to business and how they signal to the changing habits of consumers. And I guess we're going to keep you informed on that because that's what they're telling us at the White House that they will keep us informed if there's any changes. So, this date in history, January 29th, 1861, Kansas became the 34th state of the United States. Welcome, Kansas. Kansas entered the Union as a free state. This followed many years of conflict, which was known as Bleeding Kansas. The violence began after several laws and territories began to vote on slavery. That the vote divided many communities. I need not discuss that because we all know that. It led to lots of fighting and drew serious national attention. And Kansas went through four proposed constitutions, four of them, before finally moving into statehood. Its admission came just weeks before the Civil War began. Historians say this moment right there showed how divided a country can be and how difficult decisions shape generations for many to come. But before we go, on a human note today, across the country, people are stepping up for one another in real and visible ways. In Lake Charles, Louisiana, volunteers with the Cajun Navy Relief, which I have had some experience with, they are some wonderful, wonderful people, continue to help families rebuild after the related storms and flooding. Founded by Todd Terrell, Toddderrel. Shout out to you and your group, known for its fast response and long term recovery support, which I can attest, having been a first responder in several incidents. These people are there many times before many other national responders. So keep them in mind. If you have that extra buck at the end of the month where you were stretching it, you might consider a donation there. Um, they help with debris removal, home repairs, removing people in and out of floods. They direct assistance and help people get back on their feet. Also, in Phoenix, Arizona, St. Mary's Food Bank continues serving thousands of families each week. Under the leadership of Jerry Brown, the organization provides food assistance, job support, and emergency services to seniors, veterans, which we love here, and working families with rising costs. These efforts are not making headlines, but you guys made it today onto the national report. These people are tirelessly changing our community. They're not making the front page of the paper. You're not hearing them on the radio. You're not seeing it, but they're there and they are making a difference. They show up. They're staying committed and they're making sure no one is forgotten and no one is left behind. These moments are what matter. They build trust, they build communities. They are what make America They are what resilience look like. If you have that extra buck, you should donate to these organizations. And on a final word for resilience, veterans across the country are finding new paths for service. I say this because the Cajun Navy largely take a big portion of veterans to work with them. So I felt it was appropriate to bring this up. Another one I want to highlight another day is Team Rubicon. We'll get to them. But veterans across the nation are looking for new paths to serve, programs to help find jobs, to build routines, and to reconnect with a sense of purpose. And another organization like Hiring Our Heroes helps veterans and military spouses move into civilian careers through training, fellowship, and a very, very robust employer connection network. And to pop another Rubicon in there, teams like Rubicon bring veterans together to serve, similar to the Cajun Navy, responding to disasters, helping communities recover, and restoring a sense of mission and teamwork. Now, folks, I personally know this struggle personally. I lived it. I still live it. I am a veteran. And like many of you who have served out there that join me, I know the transition is tough. It can be hard. The struggles and the changes, the structure in your life. You need a mission. There's nothing like not waking up with having a true mission. There's nothing like not having that heavy structure. So sometimes we need a sense of something harder to find. And these days, you might be feeling isolated. You wake up not knowing where to go, and the weight feels heavier than other days. Support matters, and a good routine matters. Waking up regularly every day does make a difference. And knowing you're not alone in these matters is very important. And programs, like we mentioned previously, work every day tirelessly, not only to create that cohesion, that sense of purpose, and that sense of not feeling alone, but giving us, the veteran, you services in your community. So it's a win for everybody. They support communities and benefit from leadership, discipline, and experience that we bring to communities at zero cost to the community. You cannot ask for more. Shout out to those agencies. So that is the National Report, and I am Eric A. Cinotti. Facts matter, context matter, and we'll keep bringing you both. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, and thank you for ending your day with us.
The National Report is an iHeart Prime featured show. New episodes drop daily, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms, whenever you're ready to listen.